So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that every single layer is turned on, which I turned on every single layer. I notice I have two patty, so I'm going to turn off tomato, and I'm going to look and see which one I want. I prefer this one, so I'm going to delete that layer. The other thing that I noticed as I'm going through my layers is I also have two layers for my plate. So I'm going to click on this one and then hold the shift key, click on this one, and right click, merge those layers to one. So now that I've checked and made sure every single one of my layers are cleaned up, they're the way how I want them to be, I've merged them, right? So my tablecloth is all on one. I'm going to turn on every single layer and then slowly turn off each layer and make sure that that is the only object housed in that layer. So if this is tomato, only tomato should disappear. Only patty should disappear. Only the bun, the plate, and the tablecloth. Because that is true, and let's say I actually finish this project, I would now be able to go ahead and create what is called a timeline. A timeline is what creates those individual frames for your GIF. That is a window. So I'm going to the top of my screen here, clicking on window, and going down to timeline. When I click on timeline, it says what I like to create. So yes, I would like to create a video timeline. I click on that button, and it shows me this view. I don't like this view. I like clicking on these three squares here and convert it to a frame animation. And now you can see this is visible in my frame, which is my first frame, because this is the only thing that is visible over here. So now that I've done this one frame, I'm going to click right here where it says duplicates that selected frame once. Now for my second frame, I want to turn on my second layer. For my project, it's plate. Now I want to go back down and click this and then turn on the bun. Click this, turn on patty. Click this and tomato. And you'll see even down here how it slowly shows you those differences. Right now it's going to be on screen for 5 seconds. That's too long. So we want to make it be 0.5. In order to get it to apply to every single one, I can hold the shift key, highlight all of my frames at once, go to 0.5. The other thing that I need to change is no, I don't want this to loop once. I want it to loop forever. And then I can press play and I can watch my project. If I like the way how my project turned out, I can save it. So I go up to the top and I am saving for the web. It's taking a minute. So once I click Save for Web, I make sure up here it says GIF, which it does. So there's nothing that I need to do or change. If I do need to change it, I just simply click and make sure it goes to GIF. Then I press Save. And I want to make sure that I am saving to my folder, which I am. It's named correctly, which is Feral Burger, because this is a GIF project. I'm changing it to Feral Burger 1. And now I can minimize, and I can go into my folder, if I can find it. And I want to make sure that I hover my mouse over, and I can hover my mouse over and I see that it says it's a GIF. If I hover my mouse over, that's also a GIF. Hover my mouse over, and that's a JPEG. So you have to make sure when you turn in your project today that you're turning it in as a GIF. Now, this one is not done. I also have on my screen another one that's a little bit further along. So again, I'm checking each of my layers. They are all good. So now I'm going to turn off each layer. I already have timeline open. I'm going to make sure it's 0.5 seconds and it's forever. and I'm going to duplicate. And not only am I going to turn on each frame as we build the burger, I am also going to turn off each frame to deconstruct. Okay, so that's the whole project. I don't like the bun covering that up completely, so I'm going to scoot that to the side so that we can see the whole burger. Now, to check and make sure that we like our work so far, we can watch it. And then what I would do is I would go to frame 10, I would duplicate that, and now I would repeat that process where every frame that I repeat, I take a visibility layer away. And I think that this gives the project a little bit more. It just makes it more interesting. Okay, so here we go. We're going to press play. And I think that this is more interesting to have it build up, and then it takes away and starts back at the beginning. And then it builds up, and then it takes away. If you end up turning your GIF into this, where it builds up and takes away, you're going to get a higher grade than if you just simply construct it, and then it goes back to tablecloth. Construct, then tablecloth. So if you want a higher grade, I would make sure to have your GIF build, and then have it break back down again to the tablecloth. Okay? Again, I love the way how this came out. So now I am doing a save for web. I'm making sure it's a GIF, and I am saving it as a GIF. I'm going to press cancel, but you guys would save. Make sure that you name it your last name burger, and you put a 1 after it. Also, when you save your PSD document, make sure you do a file save as, your last name, 1, and you have to save it as a Photoshop document. The reason why you want to do that is because you still have your layers to work with, okay? And another reason why, and you would press save, okay. And another reason why is that next time I open this project up in Photoshop, this timeline will also be available. So if something happened to your project, maybe there was a tiny little area that I wanted you to edit or change for an art show, if you save your timeline to your Photoshop document, you will be able to go back and make those changes very easy. If you don't save it, then of course all of that information would be lost. Okay? And another thing while I'm looking at it is the cheese here. Before you guys create your GIFs, if I was you, I would actually take that Control-T it and not have it perfectly square, and move your mouse to the edge so that it's slightly on a rotation, and then turn it. By doing that, I think it looks a little bit more interesting. Also, you could do Control-T on your cheese, and you could warp, and that allows you to kind of bend the shape of your cheese, so it's a little bit more interesting. And remember, I would have liked you also to double click, and you can play around with bevel and emboss and create something that is a little bit more interesting than simply a flat, right? So each one of these layers, there's no highlights, there's no shadows, okay? So make sure that these are things that you're trying to work on as well.